Guys, welcome back to the podcast. Today we're with Juan Soto, and he is the president of IT Impact. Juan, tell us a little about yourself and the company.
We are a Microsoft Data and Certified Partner here out of Chicago. I've been I founded the company 32 years ago when I had hair on my head, quite a while. Back then, there was no cell phones or internet. That translates to experience that I'm able to help my manufacturing and service companies.
Awesome. You've been running IT Impact again since you had hair in your head. That's about 30 years ago. What does the business look like day to day when you guys get your first calls from your manufacturing companies, the moment that you guys finally pick up the phone?
Well, look, the fact is that people call us from all walks of manufacturing, right? From pharmaceuticals to chemicals to food industries, and they're looking for a seasoned firm that can help them with their data, because deep down, you're in the business of data, whether you're a hot dog vendor on the corner selling hot dogs and you're taking inventory in the back of a piece of carton with a pen, all the way up to the Amazons of the world. Everybody deals with data. And being a data expert, our firm is able to help them leverage that data, improve their operation, and become much more efficient so they can do more with the same amount of people.
Awesome. Like I said in a prior conversation we had, you're solving a very important pain point. Now, tell us a little bit more exactly what it looks like before a client gives you guys a call. What are they kind of dealing with?
Yeah.
What is their day-to-day like? And how do you guys go in there and fix that pain of them not having accurate data when they're not being as profitable as they possibly can be?
Yeah, let me give you an example. We were approached last year by a tape manufacturer. They sell more tape than any other company in the world. They have clients around the world. And they came to us with a very interesting project. They said, Juan, we want to put a cell phone modem in our client's factory, and we want to put sensors on the labeling machine, the packaging machine, the shrink wrapping machine, gather the data at that client site. And the reason they wanted to use a cell phone modem was they didn't want to log into the client's Wi-Fi. They didn't want to be accused of messing with the client's Wi-Fi. And so they came to us with just a cell phone idea. So they said, here's a cell phone modem they want to put in and build this worldwide network for us. And so we were able to design an Azure platform for them to collect data around the world from all the factories that use their equipment. Now, it's funny because when they came to us, they said, we want this to be ready day one with 100,000 endpoints. So that's 100,000 machines. And my point to them was, that's throwing good money after bad, because you're asking me to set up all these servers, all this infrastructure. They're going to be billing you thousands of dollars a month, and it's going to cost you all that money. But says, no, we promised our management team that it was going to be 100,000 endpoints day one. And like, okay, well, if you want to pay for it, that's not a problem. So we set up their entire network to collect data from factories around the world. That was one example. Another great example is we had a mattress manufacturer here in Chicago who has 3 plants. They produce foam mattresses. Fascinating process, because what it is, the foam mattress starts as a 6-inch foam. And as it interacts with the air, it starts growing in height up to 5 feet. And they then make that as long as 20 foot. So as you have a 20-foot, they call it bund that they cut. And each bund then goes into the warehouse, thousands of pounds in weight, goes into the warehouse, cools down after 3 days. Well, when it comes out, they're slicing it to cubes and they're cutting layers of stuff that's bad. So that process was having a 7% scrap. And they'll keep cutting until they'll see no gaps in that foam. Now, when you and I buy a foam mattress, it comes wrapped. We don't see the foam. Unless you take the kind of the wrapper off, right? You don't see the foam. But their standard was it has to look great, even if the customer doesn't see the foam. And what would happen is that they would sit down and analyze production reports, and they would realize, for example, 2 weeks after the run, that particular run had 8% scrap. And then they would go to the production line and start asking questions. Say, what happened 2 weeks ago when you ran this product? We noticed that you had a spike in scrap. And, it's hard because these people working on the line, they would reply back, I don't remember what I had for breakfast 2 days ago, much less what happened 2 weeks ago, right, when I ran that product. It would have to be an extraordinary event of 20% scrap, and they probably could figure it out. So they came to us and they said, how can we make this real time? So what we did was we incorporated the scales at their company. We would go into the scales and read every time they weigh the scrap, and use Power BI to create dashboards for the production managers. So they can see in real time the scrap levels on that production line and go immediately there and investigate, find out why it was too much. Or maybe investigate why it was too little, right? Make a note, okay, instead of 7%, it was 2%, right? And those are a couple couple examples how people who have problems with their operations are looking for a partner that understands manufacturing, understands regulations, and understands how to optimize their operations so they can do better.
Interesting. I'm no expert in the manufacturing field, but to me, when I hear 7% scrap, it seems like that's a lot of waste,
It
right?
is. It is a lot of weight. I'd be the first one to tell you. I mean, just to give you an idea, a normal manufacturing process in food has 2% scrap. So
Mhm,
that is a lot for a foam mattress. It means that the process is generating a lot of scrap.
mhm,
And it begs for a process engineer to come in and optimize it. So it's 5% and then 4% and then 2%, right? Which is the norm. But that
mhm.
is but in that particular industry, when you do foam mattresses, based on their quality standards, it's going to be 7%.
When you see these companies so the average is about 2%. When you see these companies with around 5 to 6 to 4, how much money are they saving when they work with you guys and they get down to 2?
It's a lot because that means you can pack more, right? The less scrap you have, the more finished goods you're going to have, and the more finished goods you have, the more you can sell. So it'll actually pay for itself. So no, that's important. The ROI, return on investment. I
Mhm,
have a good example of a potential customer calls me up. They're growing 100% a year, and they produce toilets and sinks in Canada in their factory.
mhm,
And they're one of the customers is Home Depot. Now, when Home Depot orders toilets, they don't order one or two; they order for 500. And my customer was like, well, my lead was telling me, "Look, Juan, when there's a 500 toilet order, my secretary has to sit there and enter each one individually into the system. It'll take her hours of work." So we suggested let's replace that with one button. Ask, "What is the quantity? 500," and it'll create all those records in his database. So it was a great use of being able to optimize the operation. When it comes to repeatable stuff that's repeatable, easy to fix, those are the low hanging fruits that we love because it proves our
mhm.
worth. We come in, we fix the issues, and then they're inclined to give us more complex stuff that the ROI maybe is not as much.
Mhm. Now, you position your guys not just as programmers, but business consultants, right? And you say that, ROI and the money really speaks for itself. What's the difference in practice, would you say, from other, right, IT, companies in your industry compared to what you guys are doing, kind of using that business consultant frame? And how does that change the actual conversation with a potential customer?
Yeah. So deep down, we're business consultants that use computer technology to solve business problems. That's what we are. And so when I look for new employees, I always quiz them on their business background and I ask them how they've been able to help companies. I can always teach a new employee how to be a better programmer. I can't always teach them to be a
Mhm,
better consultant, right? So it's important to me that when I hire somebody for my team, they have that business experience. They're not right out of college, right? They understand. I'll give you an example. I was interviewing someone in the past and they had a great resume in terms of programming. I mean, this person knew programming backwards and forwards, but they were too green. When I asked
mhm,
them, have you developed any AR or AP solutions? They asked me, what was AR or AP? Well, accounts receivable and accounts payable. And I'm like, look, this is just not going to work out. You have a great experience, but you need to have more consulting experience to be able to work here. And that's what we are. We are business consultants. So we have one rule here when it comes to engaging our clients. It's our first rule, and that is you have to understand the business problem before you attack it. Because if you don't understand it, you're not going to be able to elaborate a good plan. And every time we violated that rule, me included, we've gotten into trouble. And that's why we have that rule to begin with. So it's important you understand the business problem first, ask questions, and keep asking questions until you understand. And if you don't understand, you walk away. I've had to walk away. Sometimes I don't get it. I'm like, look, honestly, I'd love to help you, but I just don't get this. You have to engage another company.
hmm. Interesting. Is it ever hard to walk away from a potential deal?
Of course, it's always hard. It's always hard 'cause that's what you live for, right? You live to be able
Mhm.
to grow your firm and help the companies. No, hey, I don't know if you heard of Simon Sinek, the how, what, and why of business. Have you heard of Simon Sinek?
No, I have not.
I would encourage you to look him up. He's got a great video. In fact, I'll send you the link so you can put in the
Okay.
show notes. But he talks about the how of what the company does, the what of what the company does, and why a company does it. Right. For
Mhm,
example, why does Apple, when they release a new device, they have people lying around the block waiting for the device? And when IBM releases a device, nobody does that. When Microsoft releases a device, there's not that pent up demand. And so, how we do things is we use computer technology to solve business problems. What we do is solve these business problems so the company can do more with the sound with my people. But why we do this? I mean, we do it obviously to make money, but why? And my why is I love getting a call after we finish engagement with a client, and they call me up and says, "Juan, you don't understand what you did here changed my life, and
Mhm.
I'm able to do so much more now. I'm so much more efficient." And those are the kind of calls that we live for.
Yeah, I can imagine how good it feels when you get those calls and you know how much money you saved them and you know how much time you saved them. It's different, especially when it's another man right on the other line and he's telling you like, dude, you just saved me a boatload of time, a boatload of efficiency. I know that feels great. Now, you guys help clients that have kind of been dealing with systems that were built 20 to 30 years ago, right? What are some of the pushbacks that you get when you tell them, "Hey, it's time to modernize, right? It's time for new systems."
Yeah. Look, change does not come easy to a lot of companies, to a lot of employees. I was in a training the other day. I was training a company here in Chicago on Microsoft Teams because we do a lot of AI and
Mhm,
training on Microsoft products. And it was going great. They were loving the training. We configured the channels and teams, the groups. I showed them how to upload files. I showed them how to share files. They were loving it. And then the topic got to AI because I'm an AI expert. I wanted to bring it up towards the end of the training. And I
mhm,
got a lot of pushback. Oh, we hate AI. And no, it was an older population that is hearing about how AI is coming for your job. And they're, rightfully so, they're concerned. So it's
mhm,
important that when you come in, you win over these employees because no matter how good you are, how great the solution is. If you don't win over the employees, it's just going to be an uphill battle, and it's going to be more possibility of failure for the
mhm.
project. And so it's important to me that when we have an engagement, whether it's AI, whether it's Zapier integrations, whether it's Teams, custom applications, wherever it is, Microsoft Access databases, we went over the employees and engage with them and make them understand we're not there to eliminate their job. We're there to enhance their job, enhance their productivity. It's a force multiplier. It's not a force eliminator.
Yeah, I think that there's a huge misconception of like AI is going to replace a lot of people's jobs, and will there be a job or two that gets replaced? Sure, but I see it more as a tool and a multiplier, right? You don't use your hands to hammer in a nail, you use a hammer at the end of the day, right? So that's kind of what AI is. It just makes your job a lot easier, makes you able to do it a lot efficiently. Now, AI is everywhere right now, and everybody's being pitched, business owners are being pitched AI solutions, all day, every day.
Yeah.
What's the version that small businesses are being sold versus what actually moves the needle for manufacturers?
Great question. Let's go ahead and pause here real quick. Sorry. We'll do a 3, 2, 1. I'll answer that question. Yeah, second here.
All good.
See here. Wow. This is an older one.
Everything looking good so far?
Yeah, I think so.
Awesome.
Good questions. You got good question. How am I doing with my responses? You like my responses?
Yeah, no, Juan, sometimes when you have people on, you're like, okay, especially I've had on a lot of cybersecurity, a lot of MSPs, and they said the same things, but you're a man that talks numbers and actually talks about, I think, something that your solution solves a lot of pain. I would say that.
Okay, good. Yeah, these guys don't get it, do they? Don't they?
No, they don't.
What kind of business you're in, by the way? I've been meaning to ask you that.
Yeah, so what I run my own business, I run a lead gen GTM agency.
Okay.
So I just help B2B businesses with their GTM strategies and just lead gen. So like cold email, LinkedIn outreach and stuff like that.
Okay. All
Mostly.
right. So refresh my memory. What was the question again?
Yep. So AI is everywhere right now, and everybody's being pitched, AI from small businesses to mid-size to enterprise, right?
Yeah.
What's the version that small businesses are being sold versus what's actually moving the needle for manufacturers?
Well, the fact is that people are concerned that AI is going to come in and steal their job. And that is not always going to be the case. There are simply jobs that AI can't do. And what I promise my clients is, first of all, I start with AI is not a silver bullet. It's not going to go in there day one and make a difference, but rather it's like a new employee. You have to train them and you have to coach them and you have to make you understand it's all about context. It's all about the right prompt. And so when I do training in AI, which I got one coming up now, September 10th here in Chicago, for those listeners who want to join us, I'll send you the link in the show notes. But my emphasis here is you need to provide great context in terms of the AI to be able to help you. And the more context you provide, the more powerful it is. But if you're expecting the AI to come in and light your business on fire. That's far from it. It does require effort and work. And the story I'm hearing mostly being pitched to these owners and factories is it's going to come in and it's going to reduce your work labor by half. And, the skies will open up and the angels will come down. There will be rainbows. And no, it's far from the truth, right? The fact is, it's just another tool set in your technology. Now, here's what I always say. I tell them, if you don't start this journey, your competitor is already doing it. Your competition is already leveraging AI, so it behooves you to investigate and look into it. And so I always start with a small pilot with my firm, with my companies, with my clients, excuse me. So let's start with a small pilot, see if we can even determine if AI is something that will help you and your company. And of course, you have to win over the employees. Now, one of the things I do when I do an AI project is I make the management team take the L word pledge. And so now you're wondering, what is the L word pledge? Well, the L word is layoffs. And I say, we're not going to mention layoffs, during the engagement. And I'm still here because again, employees are going to be dubious. Here comes the AI expert, Juan Soto.
Mhm.
Only 20 in the world, one of 20 in the world. He's gonna come in and he's gonna come in like wildfire, and we're gonna lose half my friends are gonna be gone, right? And this can be further from the truth. So it's important to take the L word pledge, and they understand it's not about reduction of force; it's about doing more with the same amount of people.
Awesome. I love that. Doing more with the same amount of people, I think that sounds a lot better than laying people off because if we can utilize AI to just do more with the same amount of people, then there really does have to be no layoffs. There has to be no loss of jobs. Now, you've served over 500 businesses over the past 30 years. I'm sure from the first business you've ever served from this last one here this year, right? A lot different. What's the kind of transformation story between what it was back then and what it is now?
Yeah, and look, back then there was no internet. So there wasn't a hacker trying to get into your system, right? There was no immediate threat. There was not that many attack vectors and daily vectors. And now with the advancement of AI, I mean, hackers are using AI too, and they're able to launch multiple attacks and increase your productivity. Just like I increase the productivity of my clients, AI is increasing the productivity of the hackers. And when I walk into a new client, I start with a security conversation. Who handles your security? Do you have a managed firewall? Do you have procedures in place to restore your data in case of emergency? Right? I walked into a client the other day and he swore up and down. He says, "Oh, yeah, we have everything documented. Have you tried restoring your data?" No. Says, "Okay, if you're only backing up your data, have you never tried to restore it? How do you know how long it's going to take to restore?" Right? So let's say, for example, the hackers right now came and immobilized your network. Let's start the timer. How
Mhm.
long will it take you to restore this database? You need to know because every minute that goes by is money you're losing. The employees can't do their job. Customers are calling, asking about updates. You have no answers for them, right? And so we want to be able to be prepared. I says, I'll help you with a simulation of an attack, and we could take it from there. All right. So, for example, if attack starts right now. Go get the book on the shelf because remember, you have no computer system. She can't look up the emergency procedure on your PC.
Mhm.
Your PC is locked out. All the PCs here are locked out. So where is a physical copy of your restore procedure that says go to this website, log in here, these are the credentials, download this file, download this program, call this person, right, whatever it takes. And I get blank stares. I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, now we know. Now we know where we're at. Let's go ahead and work together on a disaster recovery plan. Because when it hits, because everybody's going to get hit. No, it's just a question of time. When they hit you, you need to be ready. If that means going to Best Buy and buying 3 PCs with a router, right, that's separate from the existing network, so you can get 3 employees up and running with a restore of a backup, or having those printed out, testing and make sure, okay, so it's going to take us 4 hours to get up on running again, or it's going to take us 8 hours, or whatever it takes. But here's the thing that most people don't realize: when they attack you, and they will attack you, they're going to wait. They're going to get into your systems. They're going to stop your backups from working. And after you've been thinking that you've been backing up for the last 30 days and you haven't, that's when they attack. And now you've got 30 days of backups that are no good because they stopped backing up your stuff and you didn't realize. So it's important that these days you have these attack vectors coming from everywhere. And it's a lot more harder to protect your network. You don't have to be right every time. The hackers only have to be right once. You probably heard
Mhm.
that with other MSPs, right?
100%. Very interesting, very scary stuff. So when I mean, I know you've probably heard horror stories when it comes to manufacturing companies having to go down due to these attacks. When you're going and you're telling or showing the value of your service when it comes to security, when it comes to what you do with data? Is there any pushback of like, you know what, no, we don't need this, I think our security is okay? And how do you be able to handle those objections?
Well, look, I'm not a security consultant. We're not a security firm. I mean, I always have that security discussion with them so I can bring in third parties to help them
Mhm,
with that. It's important that they already vetted me and they already decided they're going to work with me, right? So I don't have to prove anything at that point. They already
mhm,
love what I propose in terms of their database issue or their automation or their AI. All I'm doing is starting with a security discussion because I want to make sure that they're ready, right? Because I've seen it so many times. And when they don't have the systems in place, it makes my job a lot harder. I'll give you an example. We had a warehouse operation. I mean, they're a huge warehouse here in Illinois and several football fields big. And they hired us to do some work. Well, this system wasn't ready. They got attacked and they lost. They had a hacker hijacked their PCs. And part of that was our work. And because they didn't have good backups, they lost everything we did with them. Every single line of code. They spent thousands of dollars into that point. All of it lost. Now we had some backup, so we sourced some of the work, but it was devastating. Not only because it would stop their operation, but they also lost all our work. And so it's always good for me as
mhm.
well that they have that security. We have that security discussion and that they're ready because they're going to get attacked.
When you have that, how important is the security discussion in the qualification phase? Have you ever walked away from a
Well,
deal
we don't
because you
do it in
said,
the qualification stage, right? When they call me asking me, "How can you help me with this and with that?" I'm not talking about security with them. I only want
mhm,
to talk security after they've signed my proposal, after they pay me a deposit, and then
mhm,
during the first time I'm there with them. Meaning, and by the way, who handles your security? Oh, we don't have anybody handle our security. And who handles your firewall, man? Oh, we don't have a firewall. I mean, those are big red flags. It says, look, before we get started, you need to talk to one of my partners that can help you secure this network.
saying, has you ever got any pushback where you like, I don't know if I really want to take this deal because this person doesn't seem like they're too on it about security and it might impact our work in my job?
No, by then they already gave me a deposit, so I'm gonna do the work. I mean, if
Mm,
they don't want to secure the operation, that's something else, right? That's on them. But
mm,
I did my due diligence. I discussed the potential drawbacks, and I have already suggested what to do. So I did my part. They're not going to come after me because if they do, I'm going to say, look, remember that discussion we had day one about security? And
mm,
I said, make sure you talk to one of my partners. This is why,
mm.
right? Because when you get attacked, now you know why.
Brilliant, brilliant. Now, you work with manufacturing companies all the way from, pharma service to,
Food,
factories making bed
chemical.
sheets, right? Food, chemicals. Now, is the data problem basically the same across all of them, or does each kind of industry have their own flavor of chaos?
Well, look, data is data, right? I mean, everybody's going to have orders. Everybody's going to have invoices. Everybody's going to have inventory. Everybody's going to have rejected product on the production line. They had, scrap. Everybody's going to have materials coming in. And so it pretty much is very similar across the board when it comes to data. The data may vary in terms of additional fields, like, for example, we helped a casting manufacturing company here in Chicago automate upgrade all their systems. It was a 1 year project, 6 figures, and we got them up to date under Microsoft Access. And they take temperature readings for the metal, and they do testing in terms of the integrity of the metal alloy that they create, right? And so they're going to be completely different from an ice cream manufacturer that we helped also overhaul their entire software for the company. 100 employees, 24/7 shift producing ice cream.
Mhm.
I've had more ice cream than I care for when we did the job. And so, yeah, we want to make sure that it's you see these patterns
Mhm.
across all these industries, and there is always going to be some variation, but you're pretty much dealing with the same thing all the time.
Interesting. Now, when it comes to manufacturing, how does one get into the space? And what are trends that you're now seeing in the space? You know what I mean? With AI coming along, and all these different factors in tech.
Look, when it comes to trends, what I'm seeing a lot is our customers experimenting with AI. They'll call me up and says, "Look at this dashboard I did. Look at this amazing," and it is. It looks amazing. And, have you heard the term vibe coding?
Yes.
Yeah, the
I think
vibe
we all do a lot
coding.
of it.
Yeah, they back all the way to a potential groundbreaking program to help their business. And so the other day I had a call from a client who was very enthusiastic. He said, "Look at this dashboard I did." The problem is the dashboard was static because he took the data from his database, exported it, had the AI take a look at that data. And so he wanted to wait, okay, how can we connect this so it's live data? And it's a web app. I said, well, if it's a web app, it's going to be exposed to the general public. It needs to get secure. So whatever the AI created, we need to have our web team vet and make sure it's
Mhm.
secure. Then we have to put a login screen. Then we need a web server. And then we need to tap into the database server, right? And its credentials. And we want to make sure it's secure because we don't want this data to leak, do we? Right? We want this data to be secure. So we came back with a $14,000 proposal. He's like,
Mhm.
14,000? It took me like 5 minutes to do this. I'm like, yeah, it took the AI to do this, but the AI is not going to go out and create a web server, going to
Mm.
secure the code, make sure everything is correct, right? And connect with the database, right? So great concept, but he ended up doing the job anyway. But
I
it's
see.
a great concept, but there's a misconception that the stuff that people are generating is secure day one, and it isn't. It's just a great look. When you vibe code, you're proving concepts. You're
Mhm.
looking at how it can help your company so you can take that result and talk to a professional team like ours. It's like what I created via vibe code. This is the vision I have, right? In the old days, they would call you up and they would more or less talk to you about their vision, or they'll show you a Word doc, or they'll scratch the back of a napkin, right?
Mhm.
Something like a diagram. Now they can just go in there, ascribe it to the AI, and boom, it creates this wonderful, program or concept, which is great. I'm glad. I let them work with the AI, ratified, and they're happy with the result. Then they can engage us to complete they round it off, make it secure, and make it so that 1,000 people can use it at the same time. Because AI did it doesn't mean it's gonna support 1,000 users, right? That's another thing. Will
Exactly.
it take the load off of that? So we partner with our expertise. And that's why these doom and gloom forecasts of AI is going to lay off thousands of people, thousands of programmers. I'm like, no, these companies that are laying off, you hear about these companies laying off thousands of developers, right?
Mhm.
That's because they hired too many during COVID. Or they're using AI as an excuse for their lack of performance. And they're
Mhm.
trying to prove to their shareholders. Let me say this. When a company lays off 5,000 employees, if they lay them off and say, oh, we're laying them off because we overhired, because our demand went down, because we didn't forecast correctly, their stock is going to plummet. But if you say I laid off 5,000 because of AI, their stock is going to go up. Oh, look at that. They're using AI and they're a lot more efficient now. And, it wasn't
Mhm.
because of AI, but they use it as an excuse and now their stock is going up. And you're seeing that a lot these days.
We are seeing a lot of layoffs supposedly because of AI.
Yeah,
But
sure.
I think
Yeah.
that's brilliant what you said because it makes total sense to me. How I look at it is AI is such a tool is that a lot of people have a lot of trust that AI does everything correctly with one prompt and it's just done efficiently and done correct. That's far from the truth. I mean, as someone that's vibe coded a lot of different things into my own business, it takes hours and hours and hours and tons of knowledge and background into coding and knowing tech and knowing tools and stuff like that, that I know 100% sure that these manufacturing CEOs or founders or C-suite roles do not understand. So that's what's going to keep you guys in business and a lot of these other developers or engineering positions. Now, Juan, to kind of close us out here, if you could go back, right, to when you had hair 30 years ago, starting IT Impact, what is one thing that you wish you would have known or one thing that you would have changed?
Wow, that's a good one. I mean, hindsight's 2020, right? And I remember when I started growing. At first, it was just me, so I was working until 3 in the morning, because I was customer service, I was a sales guy, I was a developer,
Mhm.
and I was young enough to work until 3 in the morning, several days out of the week, because during the day I was selling, answering the phone, answering emails. During the night, I was programming, and I hired the wrong people. They had the wrong
Mhm.
team. They didn't share my vision. They didn't believe in me and what I was trying to build. And that drove me to having a heart attack and being hospitalized and
Mhm.
quitting the company. I sold my clients. I actually sold it back to that team, and they're doing their own thing
Mhm.
now. But then I get a call from a friend of mine. Right, this is months after I closed my business. I sold them my customer, but I didn't sell them my business. Right, I still own IT Impact, and calls me up out of the blue. Says, Juan, I have this database I need to build that converts us for hospitals and doctors, where they, how they give you a tablet when you walk into the office to fill out. This is what's your name, how many
Hmm.
packs of cigarettes you smoke a day, right, and so forth. We want the application to be able to handle multiple languages so that the doctor, the person who fills out the form survey, sees it as Spanish, Polish, whatever it is, but the doctor sees the answers in English because it's multiple choice, right? I'll give you $5,000. Say it's Thursday. I'll give you $5,000 if you have it done by Monday. So I worked all weekend on it, created this new engine, software engine and access to do that. And I got my 5,000 by Tuesday. So I'm like, you know what? I loved it. I love the project. I said, this is my
Hmm.
passion. So I went back in there and hired new people and started the business again. I haven't looked back since. And that was probably around 25 years ago.
Awesome. Well, that was a beautiful story, and that gave me a lot of inspiration. From heart attack to now where you're at today is pretty incredible. Well, Juan, I'm glad that I had you on. You had a lot of great insights and kind of a new industry in the IT space of, talking about more about data in handling the industry of manufacturing. So I'm glad that we had you on.
Absolutely. Looking forward to doing this again soon.
Juan, if the guests want to see more of you or learn more about you or see where the company's at, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can reach me at itimpact.com. There's a contact us form, book now button. You can book with me. Love to hear your story and how we can the problems that you're having, and you'll get a free consultation. Looking forward to hearing from your listeners.
Awesome. Thank you. And see you guys in the next episode.
Thank you.